We're all in business for a reason. The problem that so many small business owners have is they go in 10 million different directions, not really sure which way to go. Listen as your team of experts, Jennifer Glass and Patricia Reszetylo, go through what you need in your business to really make it stand out and benefit you. Because it's the bottom line that matters. Hello, and welcome to another episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters podcast, where we are dedicated to your success. On our show today, we are going to be continuing our conversations that we've had about building a business on a certain social media platform. But before we get there, I want to thank you for listening. If this is your first time checking us out, thank you so much. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much for your loyal listenership. So, as I said in the beginning, we are going to be picking up our conversation again on using social media to drive leads. And today's social media platform is Facebook. Facebook is probably the biggest and certainly the oldest social media platform that we know of. It started out, if you remember, as a way just for college kids to be able to connect with each other when it was called the Facebook back at Harvard. And I remember getting my invite over to Facebook when I worked at a school because my phone-a-thon kids were telling me, hey, you got to get on Facebook so that you can go from there and, get in. But I digress. Really long time ago. But there's a lot, though, that you can do today that you weren't in a position to do 20 plus years ago. So, with all of that said, Patricia, first of all, welcome. And
Hello,
let
hello.
me ask you, thank you. Hello. And let me ask you, when you think about Facebook and you think about ways that you can use Facebook to grow your business, what comes to mind?
Well, the thing that comes to mind is I am actually taking a class and I actually made my very first post today. Woohoo! Took me almost 2 weeks to get into the material and sort it out enough that I could do the thing. But I got a post up today. Um, and it marks the era, a whole new era for me. I've used Facebook mostly just socially over the years. I've had some business activities on it from time to time, but nothing that really ever really did anything. So this will be new.
Which is certainly a good thing. Trying something new and seeing how it works is big, and we'll certainly talk about that offline a little bit. But yeah, good for you. So let me ask you, when you think about Facebook, like you said, a lot of people think about Facebook, and it is, I'm sharing pictures of my cat. I'm sharing pictures of my kids, the grandkids, whatever it may be. That's what we all think of with Facebook. But from a marketing perspective, there's a lot of potential value, right? People are on the platform, they're seeing the ads. But let me ask you, have you seen ads in the last couple of weeks that have made you actually stop, click on it, and fill out a form or purchase? Or have you just kind of simply scrolled by because they didn't talk to you?
Yeah. Um, yeah, and in fact, I was laying in bed early this morning, wasting some time before I had to get up, and I filled out a form while I was doing that there. Yes. So yes, I do. I do. Um,
So, what exactly about the ad caught your attention?
I remember it vaguely, so I can't really say. Um, no, it
Okay.
spoke to a need, a deep need that I have in my business And the other thing that it did, and the actual reason that I filled out the form, I usually don't, I often don't fill out forms when I'm on mobile because if I'm on my desktop and I see the thing and I fill it out, then I can go over to my email and I can find the thing that they just sent. This one asked for my phone number. So I put in the phone number that I use for all of these things. And I know that notification is sitting there to remind me to go look at my email, or they're going to send me a link to something. Regardless, I will get the information that I needed. That was actually the tipping point for me. um, it has taken me several years to get to that point with my phone number. I know when I started this whole thing, well, there was a long time I didn't have phone service, so I didn't have a phone number that I could use for this kind of thing. So that ended up minimizing who I could even opt in with, because nearly everybody nowadays wants you to use your phone number. So what I did with that was I got a Google Voice number, which works for almost everything. Not everything, but most everything. But I use my Google Voice number for most of my stuff like that, so that the medical alerts and important alerts will come in on my regular phone. So I'm not jumping around and scrolling like a madman on my phone. This way I can sit down on my desk at my laptop and I can, open up Google Voice and I can scroll through and I can see what it is that I haven't responded to. It just works
Right.
better for me. So
And,
that's,
like you said, it's really important just to keep that in mind, how all of that works, how we can really benefit from all of that. Um, I personally don't have an issue using my mobile device to fill out those forms. And I know that if I send it into one of my email addresses, the other thing that I've been doing, just that I know who actually sells my address, because that's a whole other thing. Um, I put the site's name as a plus site name
yeah,
in the email. Just that
yeah,
way, at least I know where it's coming from,
yeah,
anytime I can, because it's really important that at least I know, all right, I know this person, I don't know them, whatever it may be. And it's another way of really saying, yes, you really did sign up for this list because you yourself put in the email that was there. But that's a whole other story. One of the big things, though, that I see with a lot of ads on Facebook is that they don't talk to anyone. They're not designed a certain way. They don't really capture your attention, and it's really easy to scroll straight by because it doesn't
yeah,
matter. And then
yeah,
every now and then you're going to come across one that actually says, you know what, I wasn't actually thinking I would consider using this company for it, but why not? And I'm going to give the example of one of those ads. So last week, I was scrolling through Facebook and I came across an ad that a particular new domain registrar was offering introductory pricing of under $7 for a .com domain.
hmm
I'm like, I need a couple of domains. Let me go ahead and, you know, pick it up and use that new registrar to get it because it's going to save me $15, per domain on the registration. It's like, sure, why not? Right? I mean, it took me literally 5 seconds to click the ad. I got the code and then I put the stuff in and got it. There was a little bit of issue on the back end, but that's an entirely different story.
hmm
But when it comes down to how all of that works, though, there was a lot of that kind of value because it immediately presented me with something I wasn't even thinking about. But it knew, oh, she's buying a lot of domains on other sites, so we're going to target her with our ad too, because they simply did a lookalike audience for who's
yeah,
already using the other domain registrars. And
yeah,
so that's how I came and saw their ad. But if you aren't buying domain names, you're not even going to see their ad because they don't need to waste the money showing it to you.
right.
So, one thing to keep in mind. But that's an example of some of what we're talking about. And I mentioned also the lookalike and retargeting is really important. And a lot of people forget that because if you're using Facebook and I see an ad or I'm online and I'm seeing ads for different things or I go to a particular website and I don't make a purchase, I want that person, if I'm the business owner, I want that person to see my ad again and to maybe think to come back and buy something else if that's not what did it. And
Yeah.
that makes a very big difference. And that's called retargeting. I can
Yes.
follow you across the internet, whether it's on Google or it's on social media. I can follow you with my ad. And that way you're going to more likely think, you know what? I wasn't ready yesterday, but today I'm ready to make that purchase. I've got something sitting in my browser right now that I I looked up last week and I didn't buy it last week because I wasn't sure, is it really something I want to get or is it something that I don't want to get? Happens to be something that's probably useful because it's one of those hand crank generators so that you can at least power something up, like your cell phone, and be able to still communicate if the power
Yeah.
goes out and you lose
Yeah.
power. It's not going to be a huge thing that's going to give you, oh yeah, you can power your refrigerator on it. Not by far. But the point being, it's going to give you some sort of power still. And that was something,
Yeah.
again, I saw that I clicked over through because of that, right? What is it that we're thinking? Right. One of the things that we've said several times, if you've been listening to us for a while, is what is that 2 a.m. problem that somebody is thinking about? Sometimes the problem is, well, I have a major storm blowing through and they're expecting power outages. Today, as the day of this recording, that actually is a real situation here. As the day progresses, we are going to see the weather deteriorating pretty quickly. And luckily, it's not as bad as my aunt, who is in a much worse off situation where
Hmm.
the public schools already in the area closed early today. But that's an entirely different story. There's all of these things that are happening because of what it is we're thinking about. So, going back to the other question, Patricia, when we think about Facebook and marketing, what else do you think we would want to keep in mind with Facebook?
Facebook makes it really easy to build a community of people who are leads or prospects or likely to be, so I see a lot of people who, for example, they'll run a challenge, right? And they'll get, you know, some of the resistance to what they're selling removed, as well as launch out the thing. And they often utilize a community to do that, a group. So that can be really beneficial.
Right. And that's not
Yeah.
even paid marketing on Facebook to the same extent.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
And the other thing to also keep in mind too is if you do have anything that goes with a form, make sure somehow that's connected to a CRM in some manner, shape, or form.
Yeah,
In the groups that I personally run, I have a plugin on the back end that allows me to record the answers to the questions that people enter into a Google Sheet.
yep,
And that Google Sheet then can go into my CRM. And
yeah.
that's really important because otherwise you're asking people to fill out a form. And unless you're manually recording everything, which I did in the very beginning before I even knew about this system, and it drove me crazy sometimes. But once I knew, it became a lot easier for me to manage the group. And so everything just went straight in there. All I have to do is press one button and it automatically goes into the Google Sheet and makes it so easy in that process. And that integration allows me to manage my group and my business then based on what steps I wanted to do. So One other thing just to keep in mind also is if you are going to be marketing with paid marketing on Facebook, you can also set a daily limit to how much you want to spend on the platform. If you're going to do, like Patricia was saying, have a group on Facebook and you're going to use your email list, you're going to use some other sort of outreach, whether it's through affiliates, it's through paid marketing and other platforms, or whatever it may be. These are all different ways that you can be putting in the value and seeing what you can be getting and going from there. So, Patricia, final thoughts, please.
Most of the world is on Facebook. You can find almost virtually everybody that you need to market to on Facebook. There are some exceptions, of course. Um, so keep it in your marketing plan. Find ways to use it.
Okay. Definitely can certainly work with that and think about how that's going to work for what your particular needs are going to be. But make sure, though, that you know if your audience is going to be on Facebook. In other words, if you know that your audience is there, it's worth it. If you're trying to talk to teens, don't use Facebook. Okay. It's
Yeah,
not
they've
going to
moved
make the
on.
most sense, right? If you're trying to get the 18 to 25-year-old people, Facebook is not going to be the right market for you. There are other platforms that will be better, and we'll continue talking about those as we go on.
Yeah.
So, on that note, this has been another episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters. And until next time, here is to your success. Thanks so much for listening to another amazing episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters podcast. We're all about helping the small business community grow and reaching as many people as we can. And the algorithms on the podcast programs love reviews. So if you loved what you just heard, consider leaving us a review. And even if you don't, I'm sure you already did, but consider sharing our episodes and our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Sharing is caring, and here's to your success. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.
It's the bottom line that matters.